largemouth. Big largemouth, Jason.
Hell yeah!
Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and today I'm going to introduce you to the Riot Baits Tantrum Craw. This is a 2.4 inch little plastic craw bait. Now, the small baits have kind of taken back over to the industry. You're hearing a lot about Ned rigs and shaky heads, and this is nothing new, but the small bait craze, I think a lot of people are learning a lot more about small baits and how they catch big fish and when they catch big fish. Not a lot of people are aware that a bait like this, once that water temperature is over 80 degrees again, you get those hot shallow lakes, or just a reservoir, you know, where it's just been blazing heat all summer long and that water temperature is up around 80 or even higher. Those big bass get sluggish and lethargic just like in the dead of winter, and a little tiny 2.5 inch bait like this here could easily get those bigger lethargic bass to say, hey look, here's a crawfish, and suck it up. And the same thing applies. Once that water temperature starts getting below 50 degrees in the fall, and then you merge into the winter where it's in the 30s and 40s, this is the same deal. Those fish start to become sluggish again, and if they can get a high protein meal like a little crawfish like this, they are going to eat it. But a lot of those baits you see don't have a lot of action. You don't see high action small baits like this. And the Riot Baits Tantrum has a ton of kicking action on these big flipper appendages, these pincher appendages, let's say. There's big ridges, so this bait is going to kick a lot. So how does that differentiate itself from others? It gives you the option to move this small bait faster, searching for big fish faster than a dragging bait like a shaky head. Although you can run it on a shaky head, you can run it on a ball head jig, a darter jig, you can even rig it on a micro chatterbait like I have here. I've just sharpied this little chartreuse micro chatterbait out, and it's rigged right on there. Now, a lot of the time, any sort of jig head that I'm going to use, I'm going to run it black, and I'll run chartreuse on the back. So I like those little chartreuse heads like that, or chartreuse little chatterbaits, and I'll Sharpie most of it out. Now, one thing I want to explain to you guys, when you're rigging a craw, and I happen to have the money color here, there's a dark side and a lighter side. Now, if you think about a crawfish or anything in nature, the dark side is always the top and the lighter side's the bottom. So when you rig it, you always want to make sure the hook is coming out of the darker side of the bait to where it looks more natural. Now remember, with these are kicking appendages. If you're just dragging it slowly, you're not going to get a lot of action out of it. So instead of putting it on like a really light ball head jig, the minimal weight I'll throw, and I'll put this on here, is a 1/4 ounce. Now, why would I throw a 1/4 ounce? I could throw this thing in 4 and 5 feet of water. I'll fish it on a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce. It really doesn't matter to me. And the reason why is if I'm moving this bait a little faster, I want to move it along at a decent pace to get those pinchers to kick. But I don't want this bait to pull up in the middle of the water column. It looks like a juvenile crawfish. I want to present it like a juvenile crawfish. So that heavier jig head is going to keep it down on the bottom if I reel it faster, with these appendages kicking all over like a little flurrying crawdad trying to run away from something. It's going to kick up a dirt trail, it's going to cause a lot of attention, and those big bass are going to come over and chomp that little sucker. Alright guys, now when it comes to the equipment that I'm throwing that Tantrum on, now some people are partial to bait casters and some people are partial to spinning when you get this 1/4 ounce and less weight of rigging. So let's say I was going to drop shot the Tantrum, or you know, a little ball head jig, Ned rig it, or shaky head. At that point, I'm going to throw it on. I'm using my Sticks. This is a prototype rod right here that's going to be available soon. This is a Sticks hybrid spin. It's a hybrid spinning rod. This is a 7'2" medium power spinning rod with a semi-fast taper. What that's going to do, it's going to give you good casting control and a good amount of length to where you can get that long range cast. And I've got that rigged up on 8-pound fluorocarbon to a size 3000 spinning reel right there, 30 size 3000, whatever you want to call it. What that fluorocarbon is going to do, it's going to allow me to feel that bait if it's kicking or if I got grass on there to rip it free. But the 8-pound fluorocarbon and spinning, if I'm fishing a bait beyond 15 or 20 foot deep, that lighter line and that spinning setup's going to get down to the bottom faster. That lighter and thinner diameter line's going to have less lift to where I'm going to make bottom contact better when I'm consistently fishing deeper. That being said, when I'm fishing deeper, I'm usually not fishing around many snags. To the spinning setup at that point is what I want to use. If I'm fishing shallow, for example, I've rigged up here on my Sticks hybrid cast. This is the casting version, the hybrid version, and this is a 7 foot, and this is a moderate fast taper, means bend back more in here. What this allows me to do, this rod is more versatile, and I can throw a larger assortment of gear on here, and I can throw lighter line. This is 12-pound fluorocarbon, and you can see that little bait right there on a 1/4 ounce jig head, and I can bomb it out there. This is a medium heavy, but it's leaning more onto the medium side. This rod I specifically designed to fish basically everything in your tackle box. If you're gonna take one rod out on the bank with you, it's gonna be the Sticks casting hybrid. This is a killer. Now the reason why I'm throwing lighter, you could throw a 10-pound on here and this rod's got enough cushion to where you're generally not gonna break it off on a hook set, but the casting gear I like when I'm fishing shallower. The reason for that, when I'm fishing shallower, I'm generally fishing heavier line because I'm fishing around more abrasions, more logs, more sticks, more bushes, and I need to pull that fish out, and that's why I'm using that 12-pound fluorocarbon. I have the invisible line, I have very low stretch, I can feel that bait working, but also when I hook them, I can pull on them a little harder and move them out and away from that heavy cover. The speed of your reel doesn't matter too much. I'm using a 7-to-1, which is pretty fast. The only time you're going to find that your speed's going to help a lot when you're fishing this down deep or on a chatterbait or on a swim jig or on a shaky head is if you're trying to hook them and move them away from that cover or structure faster. That's why I kind of like the faster reel, although it's not a must when fishing this shallow on casting gear. But those are my setups. So when am I going to fish the Riot Baits Tantrum? What conditions am I going to fish it under? Well, if it's cloudy and windy, I could still get bit on it just like anything else, but I tend to move more of a faster reaction bait, so I could still fish it, you know, on a chatterbait or on a swim jig. I could still fish it on those days. When it's calm and clean, I can fish it on a shaky head or a Ned rig and a ball head and get it down there and bounce it off the bottom. So when can I fish it? Anytime. This is a very, very versatile bait. Now, you got to remember, guys, you need to put this where the fish are under those conditions. If it's bright, calm, and sunny, those fish are going to hold into the bottom, or they're going to be inside heavy structure and cover or in those shade lines. If it's windy and overcast, I'm going to cast this bait and put it on a moving bait, swim jig, chatterbait. I'm going to cover water faster. So where this really separates itself is it's a kicking, smaller, natural soft plastics. Most people think soft plastics, you got to move slower. In this case, you want to move it slightly faster, to where if you're looking for bait, you're looking for bass that aren't actively chasing, and you don't want to fish super slow, instead of throwing like a fluke or something to cover water with a more finesse style tactic, try the Tantrum by Riot Baits, guys. I'm Nick, the Informative Fisherman. Hopefully you guys like this video. Make sure to click that subscribe button below, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate you watching.